welcome to the fundamental skills development session. So it is somewhat of a detailed breakdown for training. It can be used for players and coaches alike. So we're gonna have three parts here. The first one will be mostly about the skills, because before we get into the training part, or we talk about what it means for the game overall, we need to talk about what type of abilities there is in the game. So what type of skills and how do we break that down for training? Those are basically the building blocks for inline hockey. Then we're going to talk about the training. So what can you do? So once you know what you need to work on, how do you improve upon it, and how do you learn it? And the part 3 will be the games. So basically that's what you worked on, and that's why you focused all your training and the time of your training, and how do you implement that into a game. So the first one, to make sure that we understand what we need to practice, we're going to first start with the skating. So that is the basics of our sport. We're going to talk about how you can evolve on the court, and how can you bring power to your game through this, even if you get only skating. Then we're going to talk about second really important part of inline hockey, which is stick handling. And then for the third one, we're going to talk about shooting. Well, not exactly. And I absolutely hate the term shooting when people talk about training this. I prefer to refer this as aiming, because if you shoot just to shoot, the goal is still to score goals. So I prefer to rename this as aiming. Then we get a fourth part, which doesn't really fall in a specific category, but it is nonetheless still an important part of the game, such as passing and face-offs. Then for the fifth one, very important, which is inline hockey IQ, or playmaking abilities. Now, even if you get players that are very, very young, even at 7 or 8 years old, you can already start to teach some of those elements. Even it doesn't have to be complicated or anything like that. But those are the basics, so that whenever they come into under 13s, under 16, and we start looking at players, they should already have some of the basics in terms of positioning and so on. So first one, skating. So when we talk about skating, you would expect, yeah, it's pretty easy. I can skate forward, I can skate backwards, I can stop. What else is there? I can turn, crossover maybe, and I don't need to do much else, right? So I tried to make a list of what is there in the skating, what you can actually do by only skating, if I only take that element of the game. So first, you get all of this that you learn when you're very young. So falling down, getting back up, skating forwards, tight turns, etc., etc. But then you'll also get all of those, because if you can do it on the two feet, you need to be able to do it on one skate as well. Inside edge, outside edge, being able to jump on your skates, to get agility, being able to crouch on your skates. Then you need to find your balance on your wheels, front wheels, back wheels, know how to do pivots in all senses, in all directions. And I'm not even mentioning power skating, and especially when you add speed, opposition, such as obstacles, other players, or even when you create transitions. And we're not even mentioning the other surfaces on which you can play on. So to say the least, skating is not really straightforward. So that title over here is false. Sorry for leading you into error here, but as you can see, it is quite extensive. So first thing is, why should I work on my skating? So I know some people are here to just want to play hockey for fun. So I'm going to give you the reasons for fun. First one, if you really work on your skating, you'll be able to participate more in a game. Because if you can't move, you can't really touch the puck in the end. All right. Uh, Also, you'll be more comfortable on your skates, uh, because it's better if you're in a sport where you're not feeling that you're going to fall every single time or every single second. Then hockey is also known as a sport with a lot of speed, so it's better to be able to enjoy this. The next thing is that skating, you can do a lot of tricks and you can show off. Then for competition, so if you want to work on your skating for your competition, you'll be able to bring more speed to your game. So take an advantage on defensemen and other forwards. You'll be able to create opportunities, especially when you attack the net and try to overtake the defensive players. And also as a defense, if you get a very, very good skating and you really have a good body control, you'll have absolutely no problem defending one-on-ones, situation 1 versus 2. And you'll also be even able to defend against 3 players coming your way. So if you get good skating, it creates options for you and your team. Also, it can also provoke penalties on the opposing team. When you go fast, when you move your feet, and you try to pass players, players on the other team will make mistakes. And one of those mistakes is putting, for example, their sticks between your legs. And since you're going to keep skating fast to go to the net, they're going to trip you or they're going to hold you. And that's going to create opportunities for you and your team. All right. Now, I'm not talking about falling on purpose, obviously, but that's just something that's part of the game. All right, so let's break it down. So first, in your skating, you get directions, so forward, backwards. So what I would say in your training, work on your backward skating, and more often than not. So what I do with the players here, when I started about 2 years ago, skating wasn't that great, not very fluid. And one of the things that you want to do is, even if you don't need anything fancy, you just tell the players to do 20 laps skating backwards in one direction and 20 laps skating backwards in the other directions. Of course, I'm saying 20 laps, but you have to adjust depending on the size of the rink you have. By doing this at every practice, even if that's the only thing you focus on, at least that's something that they will master. All right. So first you can start without the puck, and after that you add the puck, and you add more and more complexity. But skating forward is always easier than skating backwards for all the players. We know a lot of players that skate very well forward with a lot of speed, but players skating backwards that have the same speed, the same fluidity in their movement, not so much. So focus on that. And also for the players that are developing, that doesn't matter the age, skating backward is more difficult because you're going to have to focus on your balance. You have to look behind you while being in speed. You have to turn at the same time. You have to refocus on your skating, all right? Being very low to the ground and keeping your head up. So what you do skating backwards, you will see the benefits when players skate forward. Next thing, in terms of skating, you also have the sides, whether you skate straight or you go left or you turn right. So one thing about this, we all have a preferred side, or for example, since I see everybody here, can everybody here who is there anybody that's ambidextrous here? Or that's right-handed or left-handed, only left-handed? No? Okay, so we all have a favorite side. What you want to do is, for the players, is to identify this and to focus even more on the side where they're the least comfortable. So, for example, if they know how to turn right very, very easily, very nice, but they can't really turn left, or it's not as fluid, during the practice, put those players apart and make them practice on their comfortable side, maybe 1 out of 4 times, and on the uncomfortable side, 4 out of 5 times. And it's valid for stops, it's valid for turns, it's valid for any drill where you have to change directions, moving left to the right. Now also skates used, 1 or 2. I'm very fond of players that are able to skate and keep balance, keep control of the puck, or shoot even when they're only on one skate. Okay, because in a game you might have some opposition. You're maybe there's maybe a holding penalty against you or the start of a tripping, and sometimes it's not called right away by the refs, understandably, but you can still make a play. But if you can't stand on your one leg and still make a play, uh, and you're playing competition and you're playing in the elite league here, or you're in under 15A or under 18A here, it's going to start to become a problem. So really focus a lot of drills, the same drills that you do, doesn't matter what they are. If you can do it on 2 legs, try to do it on one leg. All right. Next, in terms of transitions, turns, pivots, stops, and speed. So that is really an integral part of the game. You need to be able to change direction. Hockey is a fast-paced sport, so it's going in all directions. So try to work this at least every week in terms of transition: pivots, stops, speed, and turns. After that, we'll see in the second part how to integrate this into your training. Then next you have power. In terms of power skating, so basically power skating, just to make it very simple, you have your normal motion of skating. So you have your forward stride, for example, and what you will want to do with power skating is to amplify those movements, exaggerate. So when you, for example, move your arms when you skate in front of you, instead of just doing a half range of motion, you want to do a full range of motion and even more. Same thing for the skating. You want to extend your leg, extend your foot as well, and really get a full range of motion. Now, what I've noticed in power skating, so you get a lot of hockey camps giving you, okay, power skating camp for a week, maybe 2 weeks in a row, and that's all you do all year, right? Sure, you're going to see some improvements by the end of the week or the 2 weeks, and some of it might stay in the season. But if you do one thing once a year, it's not going to be very useful. Those power skating camps that you have, or those trainings that are once in the year, they are here for learning the drills. So once you get those drills, make sure that you remember them. And once you go into the full season, try to get at least maybe minimum one practice, one power skating practice every 3 weeks, at least one, or maybe 20, 21 minutes. It doesn't matter what age this is, okay? The more you repeat, the more it's going to become something that you're going to do in game. So that way you're going to add more power to your strides naturally. And what's going to be important here, because since it's becoming a habit for you, when you're at the end of your game and you're tired, that's usually when the habits kick in. And if your habit is to get a full stride and a powerful skating, you're going to be able to keep your speed all the way through the end of the game. Now, in terms of skating, so you got slow and fast skating. Both are important. So fast, that's stands to reason because it's a fast-paced game. You need to have a quick reaction time and get quickly on the puck and make quick decisions. So that's understandable. But why is slow skating really important? It's because you need to be able, and it comes down back again to power skating, but you need to integrate some practice with slow-paced to medium-paced drills, all right, where you want to focus on other things at the same time, but still maintain some elements of the skating in there. Then you have opposition. So inline hockey is not perfect, all right? There is still contact. You might have opposition, so trying to get into your training someone that pushes you a little bit or trying to get you off your balance is something that will also help you in your game, because that way you're going to get used to it. And the next thing is the surface. So unfortunately, not all clubs have steel mat. Even in the regions of the world where inline hockey is a bit more developed, games are still played on other surfaces such as wood or sports court or such things. So it can impact your game in terms of your balance and your skating style as well. So the more you skate on different surfaces, the more comfortable you will be during games. Okay, so when you're at home, for example, during COVID, try to skate even it's in the streets, on the asphalt. Try to skate on different surfaces if you can. The next, stick handling. So why should I work on my stick handling? Same thing, we're going to start with fun. Then again, you'll still be able to participate more in the game, be more involved. Then also you'll also be able to enjoy the technicity the sport is known for. So that's one of the aspects that's different from ice hockey. And well, ice hockey you still have some technicity, but it's not as, I would say, there's less opportunities to have it really develop in the game. Most notably because in inline hockey you don't have body checks or things like that. So you don't have to, so you can attempt things without having to worry about a body check coming your way. So you're going to see a lot more of those nice moves than you would in ice hockey. Then you can also, well, use the new tricks into that game as well. In terms of competition, you will be able to dig players and goalies more easily. So it's going to make your life a lot easier. Then also it's going to help you to get out of tough spots. I don't know if you've noticed or if you've played a game, sometimes you might be in a situation where you're the only player and you're playing against two other players in the corner and you need to try and get the puck out. Most of the time, well, since there are two players, they're going to get it from you. But if you've got a good stick handling, good moves, you're able to dig those one or two players, get out of that rough patch and get a pass out or shoot out. So it's something that is really useful. Then also as a defensive player, you'll also be able to know what to expect when you have a player coming your way. So you can actually identify what type of move they're going to start doing and anticipate. Then as a forward player, you'll be able to adapt to more situations. So when you have a player, if you have only one move in your repertoire, if you have good defenders on the opposite team, they will know right away what is your signature move, and they're going to stop you in the next game situations. But if you get a wide repertoire of moves, you can still be one step ahead. Then again, also you can provoke penalties because if your stick handling becomes good enough, for example, you pass a lot of players by putting, for example, the puck between the legs or around the player, or you're doing toe drags and things like that. Some players that have less, I would say, control on the game will get frustrated. And when players get frustrated on the other team, they will make penalties. So it can be holding or anything like that, tripping and whatnot. So it can also be useful for your team. Then also it creates new opportunities in the game. If you were just stickhandling normally, you would think, okay, I only see one or two options. But if your stickhandling becomes good enough and you know how to exploit it, you will see more than one or two solutions to a game situation. Even if you haven't specifically practiced, I would say, a game situation that you're facing. And the next thing also is that if you really work on your stick handling, just like you're skating and you're going through tryouts in national teams, that's one of the few things that we're gonna pick up on. All right. Another thing, what kind of sport is inline hockey? So to me, the only thing that inline hockey is, if you have to give one word, it's possession of the puck. All right, we are a sport of possession. If you look at all the games, World Championships, different elite leagues, you once you get the puck, you will want to keep it. All right, because if you keep the puck, if you get most of the possession of the puck, the other team will have less scoring chances. So stick handling, skating are one of the few things that will allow you to keep possession of the puck for yourself and your team. Now, stick handling, it has a lot to do with creativity, but there are some basics. Those are the basics that you should be learning when you start hockey. So everything that has to do with short motion with the puck in front of you, on the left, on the right, and in the back, and same thing with wide motions. And you should also be able to control the puck with your feet. And then also you have the 8 moves. So you put 2 cones or 2 gloves in front of you, and you do an 8 motion with the puck or ball. So those are the basics. When a player arrives at under 9, under 11, and they've got 1 or 2 years of hockey behind them, they should all know how to do this. Then you have the essential for inline hockey. Toe drag, which is a motion from the toe of your blade on your stick, and where you're going to drag the puck and bring it closer to you. So that is one of the moves that you should be able to do perfectly when you reach under 13, under 15, right, and so on. Then you should also be able to control the puck with one hand. You should be able to master the protection of the puck with your body. So puck protection in duels, 1-1 versus 1, in the corners, or in an attack against on the net. And you should be able to stick handle when you're out of balance. And the other move that you should be able to do that is done more and more in the game is the backhand drag. So similar to the toe drag, you're just going to use the backhand of your stick and drag it slightly behind you or slightly on your side, bring it closer to you, and then follow up with the forward motion. So those are the moves that you should know. If you get all this, you're good. But remember that you bought a hockey stick, okay? And it's not just you didn't just buy the forehand, all right? You also get the backhand and the rest of your stick. So I would say use it. Then you get also the creative moves, because inline hockey has a little culture where we like to try new things, have some fun, even if it's not used in the games. It's kind of the spirit of the sport. So in terms of creative moves, you have the up and over. So that is a move where, for example, in terms of a training setting, you put a rope or a stick on the floor. You get your puck in front of you, and you put it up over the stick, and you bring it back, or you keep going forward. Very can be useful in game, especially when the puck is bouncy. So that way you can keep control of the puck. Next thing is playing with the puck behind, between your legs, in all directions, in front of you, starting in front of you or starting behind you. Can also be a useful move in many situations. Then also you can try playing with the puck behind the two legs, so really behind you and getting it back on the other side. And I would also insist that players try jungling with the puck a little bit more, even if it's just with the ball. I would love to see players trying new things and playing with it. Also, it's going to help you a lot with your hand-eye contact and reflexes. So it's going to be a lot useful. Then you get everything in terms of the Michigan moves. So a lot of people can say it's a bit useless, that it's not used a lot in games, but there is one positive side to it. It's that if you can do those moves, or at least you work on the motion of those moves, and you try to learn them, everything else that you see before in the essential part for inline hockey, so backhand drag, toe drag, you'll have absolutely no problem in doing those. You can even do those ones eyes closed, no problem. So trying to do those moves, they will help you amplify those movements and make you more comfortable in the other movements. Right? Think of them as a form of power skating, but for stick handling. Now, in terms of best practices for stick handling, so the best practice, make sure that when you stick handle, keep your head up. All right, we see a lot of players that have great stick handling, but when it comes to not look at the puck when they're in motion or when they're stick handling, it's another story. All right, so a little trick for this: when you're stick handling, try to get the help of someone else. While you stick handle, have someone in front of you and asking you how many fingers you have on your hand. So 1 finger, 2 fingers, 3 fingers, and so on, while the player keeps stick handling. It's one way of keeping the focus on something else while stick handling. It's very easy. You don't need anything. You just need a hockey stick, even a ball or a puck. Very cheap. Then you also need to work on speed transitions. So because stick handling, it's not one single slow rhythm. You need to be able to switch from very fast stick handling to a slow one, and vice versa. Next thing, in terms of your stick handling, make sure that you remember to roll your wrists. Okay, especially for the small range movements. For the wider range movements, sure, you need to use your arms a little bit more, but when you're stick handling on short range, roll your wrists. It's going to be a less tiresome for you, and you're going to keep a better control of the puck. Then next thing, focus on body control and start slow. So when you're trying to learn a new move, don't try to do it fast straight away and being frustrated right afterwards because it's not working. When you want to start learning a move in stick handling, the best practice is to start slow, try to break down the move in 1 or 2, 3, 4 steps, go slowly, try again, and the better you become, the faster you will want to do your drill. Okay, so that's why you want to finish fast on those drills. And next, shooting, aiming. So why should I work on my shots? Fun. Again, participate more in game, but actually score goals, because scoring goals, it's fun and it's a good sensation. So, but for that, you need to be able to shoot. or at least know some shots. Competition. You'll be able to shoot from any position at any speed, all right? You'll be able to create more goal opportunities in the game for you and your team. And a player that knows how to aim a shot or looks at his target before shooting and not shooting blind by looking at the puck, that's a player that will be noticed straight away. So what are the shots? So those are things that you need to know. Wrist shots, sweeper shots, snap shots, slap shots, backhand shots. So we're going to see among those, there are two types of shots that are actually the most important in inline hockey. And then you have the more and more needed and relevant because which are the shots between the legs. So you might have seen that more and more in the games, players are capable of not only shooting between their legs, and hope for the best, but are actually able to aim their shots. And it's creating difficulties for goalies because where before you were potentially in a spot where you didn't have proper good shooting angles, being able to bring the puck behind you with the protection of your legs and taking a shot and creating an angle is something that is need to know more and more into the game. But that's the game evolving, and those are the things that are added more and more into the mechanism of the game. Then you have all those creative shots and dicks that you move and so on. So those you don't have to learn them, like I said, but it's good if you do or if you have fun with those. So what are the most important shots for inline hockey? First, those are the wrist shots. Most of the shots taken and the goals scored in inline hockey are wrist shots. Why? Because they're the most used, okay? They have quick release and they're easy to learn, okay? Then you have the backhand shots, very important as well. So you don't have as many goals scored that way, but you're actually able to surprise goalies and it creates more scoring opportunities from different angles. So in terms of shots, there is one thing that's very important, and that's where we're going to discuss the technicity of all the shots, and it's valid for all types of shots. First thing, you have a stick, you have a hockey stick. I don't know, some of you might have bought a stick at 90 euros, 100 euros. Even I know some players buying them at 200 euros. Well, it costs money, right? Mostly you buy at those prices because there's a specific flex into the stick. So when you take your shot, make your money worth your while. Meaning that when you take your shot, whatever shot that may be, make sure that you put the weight of your body on your stick. Get the flex going. Okay. You can do all the push-ups in the world. You can do all the gym sessions in the world and be really ripped. But if you don't put the weight of your body on your stick to get a shot going, it's not going to get a lot of strength. All right, or not as much. Next thing, when you have a shot, make sure that you look at your target. So it brings me to this question. What do you see here? Can we have people in the chat tell me what they're seeing? I'm interested. I'm giving you a little minute. You can answer in the chat. So I see that some people are saying opportunities, best places to shoot. Exactly, so looking at the holes. But if you know that, but if you know that, how come is it that there isn't much more goals, all right? Because what I see first is the goalie, okay? I see a face towards me. So because when you're in a game, well, you're attracted by looking at the goalie because the goalie has a face, all right? So when I see a lot of players shooting straight into the goalie, even though they know that it's better for them to shoot on the sides where the holes are, just like we see in the picture, all right? Because everybody here is at home, is able to think. But when you're in a game, you will want to look at the players. That's what happens. The trick here is that when you're in training, tell your players that when there's a goalie, to focus their shot and to not look at the goalie, but really look at the holes. And that's something that needs to be worked on continuously, at least once every week, okay? Or pretty much at every practice if possible, all right? You need to be able to not look at the goalie, right? Because, for example, if you're in a conversation with someone, you're not going to look beyond the shoulder of someone else, right? You're going to look that person right into the face. So that is a reflex, that is a human reflex that you need to be able to remove. So, but it only happens with practice and practice and practice. But you need to be aware of that in the first place. Next thing in terms of shooting, best practice. First thing, always look for the holes, okay? And opportunities and the shots. Next, follow through on your shot. I see a lot of players taking their shots and stopping midway into their movements. So it's just like when you want to throw a ball. If you're throwing a ball and you want to reach all the way back there and you just stop here, it's not going to go very far, okay? Or it's not going to go where you want it to be. So you really want to finish your movement. And it's the same thing for hockey. When you take your shot with your stick, the point of your stick needs to go right towards your target. You need to be able to sit at the end. It will make your shots more accurate and more precise. So that's one important element. Okay, so we're not going to go through each single shots and elements on how to do wrist shots, how to do backhand shots, and so on. But what is important, and it is common to all shots, is making sure that you finish your shot, that you follow through. The next thing, when you take shots, players also need to take the habit to go for the rebound. So one thing that you can do at training is when players need to take a shot, whether they score or not, does not matter. Tell them to stop in front of the net, no matter what. Even if there's no goalie, if there's not anything, force them at the end of each drill to stop. And at the end, during the games, it's going to become a habit. And you're not going to need to tell them every single time. Next thing, so we talked about this, aim at the holes, not the goalie. Next, the skills that are uncategorized. So that's something that's also equally important in the game. But so some of you might thinking that we're going to talk about preparing game or warm-ups, maintaining your gear, or rules of the game. So those are very important elements, but we're going to focus mostly on what's happening on the games itself. All right. So if you ever want those topics covered, it should be in another session. So we're going to talk about face-offs and passing. Face-off. Why face-offs are important? Well, first of all, possession. Because when you start a game, that's the first opportunity for you to get the puck and keep the possession. All right. So here you can see on the left, I drew a little animation here where you get the face-off round here. So the puck is dropped, and each player on each opposite side will have basically three optimal directions to send the puck to. So straight behind the player, behind on the left, behind on the right. So those are the most optimal directions where you want to send the puck. You don't really want to send it on the left or on the right because there's a player here on the face-off that they're already marked. And you certainly don't want to push it forward, or otherwise you give it to the other team. Now, in terms of face-off, a couple of things. Make sure that you do not look at the floor, but looking at the puck. So when the refs is holding the puck, make sure that, and the refs comes here and has the puck in his hand or her hand, make sure that you look at the puck. So that way it's going to reduce the reaction time. So that way you know when the puck drops and you can already start your movement. But if you see the puck only when it touches the ground, you're losing a couple of milliseconds, which can make the difference in the face-off. The other thing, when you're face-off, I see a lot of players putting all their weight of their body onto their stick and onto the floor. If you do that, you're not going to be very, very quick on the puck. The idea here is to keep the blade on the court. You have to. Those are the rules. But make sure to be light, okay? Very light on your arms and on your skate and on your stick. All right. The other advice I would give, let's say that you want to bring the puck behind on the right. My trick is to put most of the weight of my body on the left leg. And if you want to send it back to the left, you put the weight of your body on your right leg. So vice versa. The thing that it will do is that it's going to give you a bit more leverage to send the puck in the direction you want to. So that covers the most important basics of the face-off. Another thing in terms of communication for the face-off, make sure that you talk with your teammates. Tell them exactly where you're going to send the puck, left, right, straight back, and so on. Now, passing. So that is essential to maintain possession of the puck for your team. So passing, there are a lot of passing, backhand passing, saucer passes, and normal passes. But here you can see here in the animations, here are the most important step for good passes. First, always try to make eye contact with your target. And after that, you need to communicate. So using your words or doing some noise on the court. And then just like for shots, you need to follow through on your pass, okay? And really finish the movement with your stick. Then we go to Inline Hockey IQ. So playmaking abilities. Those are a lot of things that are overlooked for a lot of younger players, where sometimes we say, oh, they have time, and then they come into under 16 selections and tryouts, and most of them don't really know some of the basics of positioning for inline hockey. So there are some elements, some things, and that they can see at a young age. So there are a couple of things. So you have basic positioning, defensive positioning, for example, that can be learned, such as the box positioning. You get a couple of basic situations in the game, such as 1-on-0, 1-on-1, 2-on-1s, starting from a corner, starting from the other side of the rink. Those type of things can be done even at a very young age. They can also be learned the very first basics of breakout, or at least understanding some elements of it. I'm not talking about something any complex, but we'll see that after. Communication, very important. And so communicating with your teammate, even if you don't have the puck. And fourth, learning by watching. I notice a lot of players that when it's not their turn to go into practice or not their turn to play on a shift during the game, they're not going to look at what their other players are doing. And usually one of the best players that you have on a team are the ones that are capable not only to learn from their mistakes, but to learn from others' mistakes. So make sure that you can always learn from others, whether they do something good or they do something bad. Then fifth, making mistakes. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. You're going to make some. And even when you reach senior level, you're still going to make mistakes that are very, very basics. So that happens, and that's fine. And that's part of the hockey IQ where you're capable of saying, okay, that happens, and I get back on it, and I get back to the basics again. So now we're going to do a little board session for the players here. So in terms of basic positioning, we're going to start defensively. I would say for the players, the most important things that they should learn, and you can already teach them that even at for age groups at under 9, under 7, well, up until 7 years old, they can start learning this. It's because you're doing the box, defensive box, and they can learn how to position themselves here. Even where you just tell them that when the puck comes this way, that they have to fall back in that position in front of their goalie and not chase the puck if it's going there, here, or behind the net, for example. Those are the basic things where you can also explain and they can understand. They understand that very well, that if they're here, they're capable of stopping passes going into the dangerous area here. So those are very basic things. You don't have to hinder them when they're playing fun games or anything like that, but at least starting to introduce them to the concept is something that that they can do, that you can do. The other things that you can start teaching them is also changes, switching lines by just the form of whistle. That's very simple. So that way they at least start getting the concept of it, or even for any new player that starts the sport. There you go. So that was the little board session for the defensive positioning. Now for face-offs, I'm going to take this opportunity here. You can also start explaining the positioning for players that are in a defensive position and how you want players to be positioned depending on the situation. So if they're defensive or offensive situation, so what are the best practices? For example, if you're in a defensive position, you want the forward here at the face-off, then the defense here, the other defense close to the net there. You don't need someone else close to the board because there's no danger. But if the puck goes through here, you can get a quick shot over there and get a potential goal. So it's better to have your forward, for example, over here, ready to mark the other player or get the puck straight away. And then after that, for the other positioning, it can be customized, but usually you have the basic positioning, one forward here, one over there, and the defense here and defense here. Very basic, very, very, very basic things, but you can already start teaching them the positioning on the board. And it's going to make a lot of things easier when they grow up and going to move up into upper age groups. Then we're going to focus a little bit on the training. So when you go into a training session, make sure that you try to think about what you need to focus on. Know what are your weaknesses. So for example, let's say that I'm not very good at skating backwards, so I'm really going to focus on this. So every time there's a drill given by the coach and there is some backward skating in there, I'm going to make sure to try and focus on this. Or if I'm having a problem stopping on the left side instead of the right side, well, I'm going to try to do more stops on the left side. And try to be even more focused on the movements and the gestures for those. Then the second one, try and make mistakes, be uncomfortable. If you're going to your training or your practice and you're not doing anything new in terms of either your speed, your intensity, or learning something else, what are you doing at training? That is my question. You're here to push the limits every single time, okay? Or at least try. I know it's not always possible because sometimes you can be tired or something like that. But in the spirit, that's what you need to have mentally, to be able to tell yourself, okay, next practice, I'm going there. My objective is to, for example, be faster when I get the puck and I attack the net. And fourth one, when you have doubts on the movement, when you have doubts on your skating, don't be afraid to ask questions to your coach. All right. I've seen a lot of players that may be afraid or don't really know what to ask questions. Ask questions. There are no stupid questions at any stage. So what you can do at home. So COVID is there. So I believe that was also part of the questions, but here are a couple of things. In terms of your skating, if you don't have a lot of space, you can already start doing the skater movement. So moving from the left side to the right side by jumping on one foot to the other. That's one way of keeping some sort of movement and hockey stride without putting the skates on. In terms of stick handling, what you can do if you don't have a proper surface, you can get, for example, a box of pizza, put it down, make sure you have some weights on there, put your puck on this, and then you're going to have a nice smooth surface on which you can stick handle your puck on. But if you don't have any of this, use a ball, tennis ball, doesn't really matter, and do your stick handling a little bit every day. In terms of shooting, even if you don't have a net or you don't have anything like that, for the parents that are here, I would advise that you go outside, try to get something as a target. Can be anything, a piece of paper or anything like that, and practice your shots on this and try to reach your target. So that is basically the bare minimum that you can do. And in terms of hockey IQ, watch games. Watch inline hockey games, ice hockey games online as much as you can. And by watching, you're going to pick up a lot on a lot of things. So part 3, the game. So here we're going to have a little discussion. So you know what skills you need to work on, or at least the range of skills that are available. I couldn't list everything, even though most of it was covered pretty much well. But that's pretty much the gist of it. You know what you need to do at training, so focusing on your objectives. And then you have the game. So you've got all of this, you've done your training, and you get your game. So the game is not unlike a training session. So you still need to have your objectives. So those can be objectives with your team. Those can be your personal objectives. But I always took a game just like a training session. I need to remember that I need to be in good ready position when I'm at the face-off. I remember I need to move my feet, make sure that I come back in support to my defenseman for breakouts, those type of things. Make sure that when you're before at the game, that you remember what your objectives are. The next thing, when you're in games, I see a lot of players that are afraid of trying new things, especially when you're in younger age groups or friendly games. Don't hesitate to even try crazy new moves, new tricks, trying new things with your skating. Don't be afraid. there's no ridicule here, because the more you do it, the more you become comfortable in it, the more you'll be able to do it in games, right? Plus, I believe the spirit in inline hockey is quite nice, so nobody's gonna make fun of you or anything like that. So that basically sums it up of what you can do in the game. So I know that was a little bit extensive. I took about 50 minutes, but if you have questions and want to talk about the situation in COVID or anything like that, go ahead. Or if you even have more specific technical questions on a shot or face-off or stick handling, I can give you that.
Yeah, thanks, Ken. So if anyone has any questions, write in the chat and we'll come unmute you. In the meantime, there was a few submitted beforehand we'll start off with. The first one was, what is the best thing to do to keep skills sharp when you don't have much space at home?
Okay, so if you don't have a lot of space at home, then again, because you're trying to keep your skills up is a bit wide range. So let's break it down again. So for skating, if you don't have a lot of space at home, let's say that you have about, I don't know, you're just in your bedroom. One very simple thing: put on your skates. Okay, even if you can't do any strides, put a stick down on the floor and jump over it. Try to get obstacles, jump over them on 1 foot or 2 feet. Go with it. Even if you don't do any strides, it's still going to help with your balance and your agility. Now, in terms of stick handling, and you don't have a lot of space, and I'm thinking that you were thinking of using ice hockey sticks or inline hockey sticks with a puck. My trick would be to, in that case, for example, you don't want to break anything, get a tennis ball or a floorball ball, or something that's very soft, and invest maybe in a Unihawk or floorball stick that's about €5. Doesn't have to be expensive. And that way you can work on your stick handling, and since those sticks are very small, they are smaller, you're able to practice those movements in much smaller spaces. And in terms of shots, then that becomes a little bit difficult. You have to get a little bit outside, especially if you want to get the range of motion that we were talking about previously. But that's better than nothing.
Yeah, that kind of answers the next few as well. So I have one here. You mentioned quite a bit about inline hockey being a bit more open to trick shots and that kind of thing. But obviously there's a time and a place. So like when should players try tricks, and just as importantly, when shouldn't players be doing tricks?
Okay, so when you should doing tricks. So it depends which kind, as always. For example, well, if you're in a high stake game, okay, and you want to try something new, I wouldn't say that's not the time and place to do it. If you're doing tricks and you know how to do it perfectly, and we've seen players that, for example, know how to do Michigan perfectly, and they pull that off at the final in World Championships, sure, but that's because they repeated that move like 1,000, 2,000 times before. So it's not really about trick shots. It's more about the shots that you really master in those high stakes games. But if you have got a game that's not really high stake, be sure to attempt it. Now, if you want to go in details, for example, let's take, for example, the shot I was talking about, the shot between the legs. If you don't mind, I'm going to share my screen again.
Yeah.
All right, so let's take, for example, so the shot between the legs. Everybody knows this one where you bring the puck between your legs and you shoot a little bit from behind. So we're going to take the situation first where we get a player that is righty, so right hand at the bottom, left hand at top. For that player, if you want to take the two main opportunities for that type of shot is when you come on, generally on the side, where you're going to be able to bring the goalkeeper from his left side to his right side, and being able to create an angle to send the puck in the other on the other post. Same thing is valid for the player that is lefty going the other way. So like this. So if you have a lefty player, it's better if you come from a left approach because it's going to be easier for you. The other situation where you can use that shot between the legs, and you've seen that also in ice hockey during the World Championship Cup, there actually was a couple of goals like that, is when you get the puck. So that's a situation where you have a righty player here, you receive the puck here, and instead of having to turn around and take your shot and losing time and giving time to the goalie to reposition himself or herself, you just bring the puck between your legs and get a good angle on the shot. So what you want to do is that, for example, when you move with your puck close to a post here, you're going to have, and the goalie is there, you're not going to have much of angle. That's pretty much going to be your angle here. That's going to be your angle. But if you shoot between your legs, you're going to have this large angle. So that is, for example, the situation where you want to use that type of shot. So that is just one example for one shot, but there are plenty more. And I'm not going to go through all of them. But if you to come back to the question, for example, you're in a situation where you're in a game with not a lot of high stake, or even if it's still a bit close, it's not too much of a complicated move, but still a nice trick. Try it. I hope that
Absolutely.
answers the question.
Obviously, people are doing stuff at home right now. Do you recommend sort of any online content to sort of follow along and to get ideas and drills to do?
Right. So there are plenty of there's plenty of material in terms of specific drills. So that's why I didn't come here to give specific drills because there are plenty of them on the internet. But if I had to give recommendations, I would say hockey training is a nice one. There's a lot of good things for this. Next Generation Hockey has a couple of things that you can do on the outside if you put on your inline skates. There are a couple of moves that you can do. But yeah, those are the main ones. But there's plenty of them on YouTube and on the internet. The only thing I would ask is just pick one and stick to it. That's what I would say. To create a routine, master some of those moves.
Yeah, I would second that. Like, don't try and overload yourself. There's so much content out there that you can easily go down a rabbit hole and you don't know what to follow. So absolutely find one that's trustworthy and just stick to what they're doing. You kind of touched on it, but if players are only going to have the time to work on, say, one thing in a week, what fundamental skills should they focus on?
I would say skating. Skating is the most important one. Try to go and skate if you can every day, even just 5 minutes. Just do it. All right. And I would like to come back to one thing, especially when we get new recruits or new players, in a club. It's if you get a player that knows how to skate, they got a perfect skating. and has a lot of experience in skating, and does not know how to stick handle, does not know how to shoot, we can teach them very quickly and very easily. It takes very, very little of time compared to skating. But skating takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of practice. So skating is always the number one priority in my mind, especially when you ask any coach in the national team here, the first thing we're going to look at when we select players is the skating speed for one, but also the skating quality. So if there's power, if there is good fluidity in the movement, if there is agility and balance. So make sure that you really focus on this. If your stick handling is not perfect, or your shing is not perfect by when you're 13, 14, or even if you're a senior, that's fine, because we can teach you that very easily. And in a month's training where you practice every day, you're going to be very good stick handler. The same cannot be really said about skating, as it takes much more time.
Absolutely. And Fear writes in the chat here, are we going to be bringing back Hockey Thursday Talk?
This one. Well, we'll see for season 3, Michael.
Yeah, we'll need to try and get some different guests with different perspectives. We don't want to be getting the same story from a different voice. So
I think we wanted to move to Hockey Thursday Talk European region this time. So pretty much all the countries where it's developed and not less developed. I believe that was the idea.
Yeah. If anyone else has any questions, we'll leave it open for a couple more minutes. If you're out in the chat, and we'll come unmute you.
And if you want to ask me a question or anything like that, just go ahead. I think I can share my email address here. Okay, so I see a question for workout routine. So workout routine, I would not necessarily do the same thing every day. I would have maybe 2 types of routines, so that way I don't get used up. So, well, I have a little book that you could use. I didn't finish it last summer. It's close to completion. But what I would say is focus on 3 main parts: upper body, everything relating to your arms, your trapezoids, your pecs, and also after that, everything that's upper body, but the core of your body, with working on your abdominals. Then after that, also really working on everything that's relating to your legs. At least try to break it down. So a combined workout is always good. But one thing that I would ask is that no matter which workout you pick, the same thing for inline hockey training, by the way. You pick one, but whatever you do, please work in rotation, okay? If you do a workout that is static, where, for example, you're doing the plank for 3-4 minutes, you can do this, bravo, but it's not going to be useful. In hockey, you're always in movement, in rotation, you're changing speed, you're pivoting, you're change of directions every single time. So you always have some sort of rotation in your movements. So whatever you do, whatever drills, it can even be push-ups where you add a little thing on top, where you're going to add under rotation. You can do a little twist at the end of your push-up. It can be something very simple as this, but add rotation. The next thing I would ask is, try to be consistent with it. Even if I prefer you would do like maybe 5 minutes a day, rather than you do 2 hours, 2 long hours in one go during the week. Because at some point, 2 hours, it's going to become very, very difficult for you. And usually people give up after 4 weeks or even before that. But if you do 5 minutes, maybe one every 2 days, or 5 minutes every day, you're gonna be able to maintain this, because everybody can do 5 minutes a day. It's nothing out of 24 hours. So those are actually my recommendation.
Yeah, on that question, our webinar with Colin Shields from 2 weeks ago is on YouTube, and we'll be posting the links for all the recordings of the webinars by the end of the week for you to watch back if you missed anything and want extra to rewatch stuff to pick up on, because so far we've had a lot of information through the free, so it's easy to miss things. Question from PJ. What are the key sort of fundamental skills a goalie should work on?
So forgive me if I didn't mention the goalies before, but that was about the sessions of last week, so I didn't want to step on any toes. But in relation to my presentation today, the most important focus for goalies that I would ask is practice your skating. Goalies are supposed to be the best skaters in a hockey team. So there's something that you need to do is work on your skating, because goalie needs to be really agile. Okay, it needs to be flexible, needs to have strength, needs to have focus. So for this, and you need to have a good skating and a perfect skating, even better than other players. So focus on that. Then after that, if you want to work on your stick handling, passing, and shooting, sure, go ahead. It's always good for goalies to experiment other things, and also to know a little bit the position of field players, because that way you're able to understand them and participate more in the game and communicate with them better. If you know what they're supposed to do when they're in defense, or what they're supposed to do when other players are playing forward, you're going to become a better goalie, because you're going to be able to communicate with your player better, and in a way shout at your teammates with the proper information. Hope that answers your question, PJ.
Okay. If there's no other questions, we'll finish with your hockey challenge from the Hockey Thursday Talks. Oh.
Go ahead.
Who's your favorite club?
I'm not gonna give any biased answers for Ireland. I'm gonna say Cork, but overall, I will say Rouen Spiders in France.
Your favorite player?
Inline or ice, or both?
Let's go both.
Let's stick to inline then. I kind of like the way Patrick Sebeck from the Rotel team is playing. It's very explosive, very intensive, and plus he's a very cool guy.
Yeah, awesome player.
And ice hockey, I would say Datsuk. Definitely. Some crazy moves.
Favorite legend?
Legend? Mario Lemieux, would say. Well, it's quite impressive, and he still pulled off a couple of moves that sometimes were never seen really in the NHL before. So, yeah.
Favorite rink?
Favorite rink. So, ice hockey, I would say, difficult one. I would say the Centre Bell in Montreal. That's where I played in the Pee Wee tournament in under 13s back in the day. So, quite the memory. And for inline hockey, I would say best hole is the one in Réseau Orangis in France. Really nice facility.
Cool. And lastly, favorite national team. And you can't be biased.
When I pass on this one, I'm gonna say Ireland. Here you go.
We've converted him.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, so once again, thanks everyone for joining us this evening. We hope Ken's talk was good information for you, and we will, as I said, we'll be posting the links for the free webinars by the end of this week, and we hope to arrange. With lockdown now extended to the start of March, we hope to arrange some kind of activities throughout February as well to keep us active. So I hope everyone stays healthy and safe, and we can see each other all back in the rink again soon. Bye.